The city never truly slept anymore. Lights stayed on all night, screens glowed in every window, and people moved like tired machines from one task to the next. Decades of pressure had done this. Wars that never fully ended, jobs that never slowed down, and expectations that never softened. Humanity had learned how to survive almost anything, but it had forgotten how to rest. That was why the Global Council announced the Stress Relief Companion Program. The message played on every public screen, every home terminal, every device that could project light or sound. Calm voices explained that mental collapse had become the greatest threat to human survival, not enemies, not hunger, not even climate failure, stress. The solution was simple, they said. Each registered adult citizen would be issued a biological companion designed to reduce stress, provide emotional stability, and ensure psychological balance. The companions were alien in origin, acquired through off-world treaties and advanced biocontrol methods. They were safe. They were regulated. They were necessary. Most people accepted the announcement without question. Some were curious. Some were uncomfortable. A few were angry, but none of that mattered. Participation was mandatory. Elias Verne watched the announcement from his small apartment, arms crossed, expression blank. He was 32 years old, lived alone, and worked as a systems maintenance technician for the city's lower infrastructure grid. He fixed things no one saw and that no one thanked him for. It suited him. He had survived long enough to learn one rule. When the government said something was for your own good, it was best not to ask too many questions. Asking questions cost energy. Energy was something he didn't have much of left. 2 weeks later, the notice arrived. Issuance confirmed. Unit delivery 0900 hours. And non-compliance will result in penalty. Elias stared at the message for a long time. He felt nothing. Not fear, not excitement. Just a dull weight settling somewhere behind his eyes. At exactly 9 in the morning, a transport drone stopped outside his building. The door buzzed. Elias opened it. 2 uniformed officials stood in the hallway. Between them was a slender figure wrapped in a pale gray cloak. A soft restraint band glowed faintly around her wrist. "This is your assigned companion unit," one official said, voice flat and rehearsed. "Unit designation SR-17 Theta. Please sign here." Elias signed without reading. He had learned that reading official documents only made things worse. The officials released the restraint band, stepped back, and turned to leave. "Instructions will be delivered to your terminal," the second official said. "Initial bonding procedures are mandatory. Failure to comply will be reported." The door closed. Elias stood there, suddenly aware that he was no longer alone. The alien girl remained still, hands folded in front of her. When she lowered her hood, Elias finally saw her face. She was not human, but close enough to be unsettling. Her skin had a faint pearlescent tone like light on water. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, dark and reflective. Thin markings traced along her temples, symmetrical and delicate. She looked scared. That surprised him. The program announcement had shown companions smiling, relaxed, almost serene. This one looked like she was bracing for impact. Elias said, because he didn't know what else to say. "You can come in." She stepped inside quietly. Her movements were careful, as if every step had been practiced too many times. The apartment was small. One main room, a sleeping alcove, a kitchen unit that barely worked. The alien girl glanced around, taking in everything with sharp attention. Elias cleared his throat and moved to his terminal. The instructions were already waiting. Initial interaction protocol. Phase 1, physical presentation. Phase 2, emotional alignment. Phase 3, neural synchronization. Elias stopped reading. He looked back at the alien girl. She stood where he had left her, eyes lowered, hands clenched tightly together. Her breathing was shallow. Something about the scene felt wrong, deeply wrong. "You don't have to stand there," Elias said. You can sit if you want. Her head snapped up. Surprise flashed across her face, quickly followed by confusion. I am permitted to sit, she asked. Her voice was soft, accented, but clear. I mean, yeah, Elias said. It's it's my apartment, but you're in it, so sit. She hesitated, then slowly lowered herself onto the edge of the couch, posture stiff, as if expecting punishment. Elias rubbed his face. He felt more tired now than before she arrived. The terminal chimed again. Begin phase 1. Elias sighed. Listen, he said, turning to face her. They probably expect me to tell you to do something. Her shoulders tensed immediately, her eyes fixed on the floor. Yes, she said quietly, I understand. He paused, something twisted in his chest. Do you? He asked. She swallowed. I am aware of my assigned function. The silence stretched. Finally, Elias said, Okay, then go ahead. She stood slowly. Then she shook her head. I refuse, she said. The word hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. Elias blinked. You what? I refuse, she repeated, voice trembling but firm. I will not undress. The terminal emitted a sharp, alert tone. Compliance failure detected. Elias' heart skipped. He moved quickly, slamming his hand over the terminal controls, muting the alert. Why? He asked, lowering his voice. Why would you say that? Her hands were shaking now. Because I am not a thing. That answer hit harder than any programmed response could have. Elias stared at her. You know what happens if you refuse, right? Yes, she said. Her eyes finally met his. They were wet but steady. They will take me back, they will reset me or destroy me. Then why? Because if I obey, she said, voice breaking, then there will be nothing left of me to save. Elias leaned back against the counter. His thoughts raced. This wasn't in any briefing. This wasn't in any announcement. Companions were not supposed to speak like this. They were not supposed to refuse. He looked at the terminal again. Report NON compliance. Yes, no, his finger hovered over the control. Reporting her would be easy, safe, expected. If he didn't, there would be consequences. Monitoring systems watched everything. Deviations were flagged. People lost jobs. People disappeared. He looked back at her. She was waiting, not pleading, not begging, just waiting. I'm not reporting you, Elias said. Her eyes widened. Why? He didn't have a good answer. Because I don't think you're broken. The terminal chimed softly, shifting modes. Deviation logged. Observation status active. Elias cursed under his breath. Okay, he said. New plan. You don't do anything you don't want to do, and I don't ask. That is not how this works, she said. Maybe not, Elias replied. But it's how this apartment works. She studied him carefully as if searching for hidden commands or traps. My designation is SR-17 Theta, she said after a moment, but my name is Saley. Elias nodded. I'm Elias. They sat in silence. For the first time in years, the apartment felt different. Not quieter, just heavier, like something important had entered the space. Outside, the city continued its endless motion. Inside, two beings sat together, both defying expectations in their own small way. Neither of them knew it yet, but this single refusal had already set something in motion that could not be stopped. Part 2. 1600 words Kaleko or interesting Hunachea or third-person style, Ma Lekni Ha or simple basic English Ka or violated free Hona Chai without short heading morning came slowly. Light slipped through the narrow window, pale and gray, touching the walls of Elias' apartment. The city outside hummed like it always did, distant engines and soft alarms blending into a sound people stopped noticing years ago. Elias had not slept well. He lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint rhythm of another person breathing in the room. That alone felt strange. He had lived alone for so long that even silence had become a habit. Saley sat on the couch where she had stayed all night. She had not moved much. She did not sleep. When Elias finally stood up, she looked at him immediately as if she had been waiting for permission to exist. You can relax, Elias said, rubbing his eyes. I'm not going to report you today either. Today, Saley repeated quietly. He didn't answer that. He walked to the kitchen unit and activated the heat plate. It flickered before warming up. He took 2 nutrient packs from the cabinet, tore one open, and hesitated. Then he opened the second and placed it on the table in front of her. "This is breakfast," he said, "for both of us." She stared at the pack. "I do not require sustenance in this cycle." "Still," Elias said, "it's rude to eat alone." After a pause, she picked it up carefully and mimicked his movements. She tasted it, eyes narrowing slightly. "It is unpleasant," she said. He snorted. "Welcome to Earth." For a moment, something almost like a smile crossed her face. It vanished quickly, but Elias noticed. As they ate, his terminal chimed softly. "Daily status check required." His shoulders stiffened. Saley noticed immediately. "They are watching." "Yeah," he said. "Always are." The program did not rely on trust. It relied on data. Biometric scans, neural activity, emotional markers. Elias' job had given him just enough understanding to know how deep the surveillance ran. The companion units were not just stress relief tools, they were sensors. "Do they know I refused?" Saley asked. "They know something," Elias said. "They always do. The question is how much." He finished eating and wiped his hands on his pants. "I have to go to work." Her head tilted slightly. "And I am to remain here." "That's safer," he said, "for now." "What if they come?" Elias met her gaze. "Then we deal with it." She studied him for a long moment. "You speak as though you are not afraid." He gave a tired smile. "That's because I'm too tired to panic." Before leaving, he paused at the door. "Don't touch the terminal, and if anyone knocks, don't answer." She nodded. "I will comply." He stopped himself before correcting her word choice. Some habits were hard to break. The lower infrastructure hub was underground, crowded with cables, vents, and humming machines. Elias spent his shift repairing a faulty relay, but his thoughts stayed elsewhere. Every alert tone made his chest tighten. During his break, he accessed a restricted maintenance channel. It was a risk, but curiosity had grown into something heavier overnight. He searched the companion program database. Most of it was locked, but not all systems were designed with deep scrutiny in mind. Elias found old files, archived reports, partially erased logs. One phrase appeared again and again in early documents: cooperative biological partners. Not units, not tools, partners. His pulse quickened as he scrolled. The alien species assigned to the program had first been encountered during humanity's expansion into deep space. They were empathic by nature, capable of regulating emotional states through proximity and neural resonance. Early joint missions showed reduced conflict, faster recovery from trauma, and higher survival rates. Then something changed. The reports shifted tone. The word consent disappeared. Control mechanisms were introduced. Behavioral compliance became mandatory. Emotional resonance was redefined as a function, not a choice. And then came reclassification. Stress relief asset. Elias leaned back, stomach tight. When his shift ended, he returned home quickly, half expecting the apartment to be sealed off by security. It was. Saley sat where he had left her. She stood when he entered, relief flashing across her face before she could hide it. "They did not come," she said. "Good," Elias replied. "Neither did they question me." He sat down heavily and told her what he had found. As he spoke, Saley listened without interruption. Her expression was calm, but her hands trembled slightly in her lap. "So they know," she said when he finished. "They have always known." "Why didn't they just call you what you are?" Elias asked. "Why pretend?" "Because humans fear equals," Saley said softly, "but they are comfortable with ownership." The words stung because Elias knew there was truth in them. "What happens to companions who fail compliance?" he asked. Saley hesitated. "They are returned. Some are reset. Some are dismantled for research. A few are reassigned to high-stress zones until their resistance ends." Elias closed his eyes. "That's not stress relief." "No," she agreed. "It is stress transfer." Silence settled between them. I do not blame humanity, Sally said suddenly. Your species is young, you burn brightly, you break yourselves trying to survive. That doesn't make this okay, Elias said. No, she replied, but it explains it. The terminal chimed again. Observation escalation notice. Behavioral anomaly detected. Elias stood up. That's not good. What will you do? Sally asked. I don't know yet, he admitted, but I'm not giving you back. Her eyes widened slightly. You would risk yourself, he met her gaze. Someone should. That night the city experienced a minor systems outage, nothing dramatic. Just enough to interrupt monitoring for a few minutes in certain residential blocks. Elias had planned it carefully. He accessed his terminal, hands steady despite the pounding in his chest. Okay, he said, this is risky, but I need to see something. What? Sally asked. Your neural pattern, he said. If you're willing, she nodded. I consent. The word mattered more than either of them said aloud. Elias connected a portable scanner. The readings lit up the screen in complex waves and harmonics far beyond human baseline patterns. But what caught his attention was not the complexity. It was the balance. Her neural activity responded to his presence. When his heart rate increased, her patterns shifted to stabilize it. When his stress markers rose, hers softened. You're not reducing stress by force, Elias whispered. You're sharing it. Yes, Sally said. That is what we do, or what we are meant to do. Elias laughed quietly, disbelief mixing with anger. They turned empathy into a product. The scanner beeped sharply. Unauthorized access detected. Footsteps echoed faintly in the hallway outside. Sally looked at him, fear finally breaking through her calm. They are coming. Elias shut down the scanner and grabbed her hand. Then we don't hide. The knock on the door was firm and mechanical. Citizen Elias Verne, a voice called. Open the door. Elias took a breath and opened it. Two enforcement officers stood outside. Their expressions were unreadable. We have detected irregularities, one said. Your companion unit is malfunctioning. Elias stepped aside slightly, placing himself between them and Sally. She's not malfunctioning. She is refusing protocol, the officer replied. That is malfunction. No, Elias said. That's choice. The officers exchanged a brief glance. Step aside, one ordered. Sally moved forward instead. She stood beside Elias, not behind him. I am not broken, she said clearly, and I will not return. The officers raised their restraints. For a moment it seemed the outcome was inevitable. Then the building lights flickered. Across the city similar anomalies appeared. Systems lagged, signals delayed, small failures stacking together. Elias felt it before he understood it. Sally's hand tightened around his. We are not alone, she whispered. Somewhere beyond the apartment walls, something larger was beginning to stir. Part 3. 1600 words kaleko or interesting hunachea or third-person style ma lekni ha or simple basic English ka or violated free hona chai. Without short heading, the officers did not move at first. The lights continued to flicker, not enough to plunge the hallway into darkness, but enough to make the control bands on their wrists pulse unevenly. One officer touched the side of his helmet, listening to an incoming transmission that clearly wasn't coming through cleanly. Central repeat, he said. Signal is unstable. Elias felt Sally's grip steady, warm, grounding. His heart was racing, but something strange was happening. The panic he expected did not fully arrive. It was as if the edge of fear had been softened. The second officer frowned. This is spreading, multiple blocks reporting interference. Sally spoke quietly, but her voice carried. You are feeling confused, slightly irritated, your focus is slipping. Both officers stiffened. That is not possible, one said. It is, Sally replied. I am not doing this to you. Your systems are reacting to what you have already done. Elias glanced at her, surprised. She met his eyes briefly, then looked back at the officers. Our presence calms humans, she continued. But when you use force, the imbalance grows. Your own networks amplify it. The officers hesitated. That hesitation alone was new. "This unit is compromised," the first officer said, but his voice lacked certainty. "We are ordered to retrieve." A sharp tone cut him off. His wristband flashed red, then yellow. "Central Command is requesting a pause," the second officer said slowly. "They want confirmation." Elias seized the moment. "You don't need to drag her out," he said. "Just log that you saw us, that she's stable." The officers exchanged another glance. After a long second, one of them lowered his restraint device. "Observation will continue," he said. "Do not attempt further deviations." They turned and left. The door slid shut. Elias sagged against it, breathing hard. That was too close. Sally leaned against the wall, eyes closed. "They felt it," she said. "The strain, it is happening in many places." "What is?" Elias asked. She opened her eyes, awakening. Over the next few days, the city changed in small but noticeable ways. Monitoring drones hovered longer than usual, then drifted away without recording. Compliance alerts appeared, then vanished from terminals. Companion units across the city began acting differently. Some spoke more. Some asked questions. Some refused tasks quietly, not in defiance but in sadness. People noticed. Forums filled with confused messages. Why did their assigned companions seem afraid? Why did stress levels increase when enforcement units appeared? Why did people feel calmer simply sitting and talking with them? The council responded with statements: temporary instability, software updates, nothing to worry about, but Elias knew better. He stayed home more often, citing maintenance exemptions. He and Sally talked for hours. About her world, about Earth, about the strange similarities between their species. Both driven, both exhausted, both taught to endure rather than heal. "You were never meant to fix us," Elias said one night. "No," Sally replied. "We were meant to stand beside you." He released more data into public channels, carefully, anonymously: old mission logs, early cooperation footage, records showing that stress levels dropped most when companions were treated as equals. The response was slow at first, then it surged. A human doctor posted a study confirming abnormal neural resonance. A former officer admitted enforcement orders were suppressing emotional stability. A mother shared a message about how her companion had comforted her child during a panic episode without any directive. The narrative began to crack. The council did not wait. On the seventh day, a global retrieval order was issued. All companion units were to be collected immediately for system-wide recalibration. Elias read the order in silence. "They will not recalibrate," Sally said. "They will erase." Outside, transports moved through the streets. People argued, some resisted, some complied out of fear. Sally stood near the window, watching the city. "I can feel them," she said. "My people, they are afraid, but they are also connected." "Connected how?" Elias asked. She turned to him. "We were never isolated individuals. We resonate across distance, across space." Elias understood. "You're sharing what you feel." "Yes," she said, "and what they feel is hope." A knock came at the door again, louder this time. "Heavier." "Citizen Elias Verne," a voice called. "This is mandatory retrieval." Elias did not open the door. Instead, he activated his terminal and transmitted everything. Every file, every log, every scan. He sent it everywhere: public networks, independent channels, personal feeds. "You ready?" he asked. Sally nodded. "I have been ready for a long time." The door burst open. This time there were more officers. They moved fast. Elias stepped forward. "Stop." They didn't. Sally raised her hands, not in surrender but in focus. The room filled with a quiet pressure. Not pain, not force, something deeper. The officers slowed. Their breathing changed. Confusion rippled through them like a wave. "What is happening?" one whispered. "You are feeling what you have ignored," Sally said gently. The cost of obedience without thought. Across the city, similar moments unfolded. Companion units stood their ground, not violently, not aggressively. They simply refused to be taken. Humans stood with them, workers blocked doors, doctors intervened, families protested. Not with anger but with calm insistence. The council's networks flooded with conflicting data. Stress markers spiked among enforcement teams. Public sentiment shifted faster than algorithms could correct. Emergency sessions were called. For the first time in decades, the council faced something it could not suppress: choice. Elias felt it then, a pulse through the air, through the walls, through his chest. Saley staggered slightly. He caught her. "What's happening?" he asked. "Our signal has reached beyond your world," she said, breathless. "My people have heard humanity's response." "What does that mean?" Elias asked. "It means they are deciding whether to stay." The building shook faintly as distant ships entered orbit. Not weapons, not invaders. Observers, the galaxy was watching. The officers in the apartment slowly lowered their restraints. One of them removed his helmet, revealing tired eyes. "We didn't know," he said quietly. "They never told us." Elias looked at Saley. She looked back at him, her expression unreadable. "This is your moment," she said. "Your species is being measured, not by power, by restraint." Outside, the city fell into an unnatural quiet. Screens across the skyline changed, no longer showing council messages, but live feeds of peaceful standoffs, of humans and aliens standing side by side. The stress relief program had failed, but something far greater was beginning. Part 4. 1600 words ka leko, or interesting hunachea, or third-person style, ma lekni ha, or simple basic English ka, or violated free hona chai, without short heading. The silence did not last long. Across the city, screens flickered again. This time they did not show warnings or commands. They showed faces. Real people, tired workers, doctors, parents, even a few council representatives sitting stiffly, unsure of what to say. Elias stood near the window with Saley beside him. Above the city, faint lights moved slowly through the clouds. The ships did not descend. They did not threaten. They simply waited. "They are listening," Saley said softly. "To us?" Elias asked. "To your choices," she replied. Inside the council chamber, arguments erupted. Some members demanded force. Others warned that violence would only prove every accusation true. Data poured in faster than it could be processed. Stress indicators across the population were dropping, not rising, despite the chaos. That single fact changed everything. People were calmer with the alien companions free, not obedient, free. A senior council member finally spoke into the global feed. His voice shook slightly, not from fear but from exhaustion. "Citizens of Earth," he said, "we are facing an outcome we did not predict." No one laughed, no one cheered, they waited. The Stress Relief Companion Program was created to stabilize humanity, he continued. But it has become clear that stability cannot be enforced, it must be shared. The words spread quickly. In Elias' apartment, Saley closed her eyes. "They are shifting," she said, "slowly, but they are shifting." The retrieval order was suspended, then canceled. Enforcement units were recalled. Officers stood down, many unsure how to feel now that the tension holding them together had loosened. Across the city, doors opened. Alien companions stepped outside without restraints for the first time. Some stayed close to the humans they had lived with. Others stood alone, simply breathing, feeling the air without permission. No riots followed. No panic. Just quiet. The council announced an emergency vote. All companion units would be granted temporary autonomous status while a full inquiry was conducted. It was a careful statement, full of safe words and delays, but it was a beginning. That night, Elias and Saley sat on the floor of the apartment, backs against the wall. "Do you regret staying?" Elias asked. She looked at him for a long moment. "No," she said, "but I am afraid." "Of what?" "Of hope," she answered. "It can hurt more than chains." He nodded. He understood that better than he wanted to. Days passed, then weeks. Investigations uncovered what Elias had already seen: altered records, suppressed research. early agreements rewritten without consent. The truth was no longer hidden behind one leak. It was everywhere. Public opinion hardened, not into rage but resolve. Humans demanded change, and something unexpected happened. Other alien species began to speak. Messages arrived from distant systems. Observers confirmed what Saley had said. Humanity was being watched not because it was strong but because it was unstable, dangerous and brilliant, capable of cruelty and growth. Now the galaxy had seen a different side. A species that paused, a species that listened, a species that chose restraint when power was easier. The ships above Earth descended at last, not into cities but into open spaceports. Delegations arrived, not soldiers. Saley stood among them, no longer marked as a unit but as a representative of her people. Elias watched from the crowd. She found him easily. "You stayed," she said. "So did you," he replied. Her people had made their choice. They would not flee Earth. But they would not belong to it either. They would stand beside humanity, not beneath it. Partnership was offered, slowly, carefully. The stress relief program was formally ended. In its place came something far less controlled and far more difficult: coexistence. Years passed. Elias no longer worked in the lower infrastructure. He helped design shared systems, networks that balanced emotional data without ownership, without force. The work was slower, messier, but it lasted. Saley often worked off-world, acting as a bridge between species. She returned when she could. When she did, the city felt lighter. One evening they stood on a balcony overlooking the skyline. The lights were still bright. The world was still loud. Humanity was still imperfect. But something fundamental had shifted. "Do you think they'll forget?" Elias asked. "Yes," Saley said honestly. "And then they will remember again." He smiled. "That sounds about right." She looked at him. "Your species is strange." "So are yours," she nodded. "That is why this works." Above them, stars burned quietly. Not judges, not threats, witnesses. Humanity had not been celebrated for its strength, its weapons, or its control. It had been recognized for something far rarer: the moment it chose to stop and be better. And that choice echoed far beyond Earth.